The universe was quiet, almost too quiet as if it were holding its breath. Among the countless stars, one planet shone brighter than most, Zareth. Its surface was a dazzling mix of crystals and metal, glowing under a pale green sun. Zareth was ruled by Queen Vayara, a being of unmatched intelligence and strength. Her people were loyal, her warriors feared, and her laws absolute. No stranger had ever dared step onto Zareth without her permission. Jared, a human explorer, had no idea about any of this. His small ship had been caught in a violent cosmic storm while he traveled through uncharted space. Alarms screamed as the hull shook and fire danced along the panels. He struggled to regain control, sweat dripping from his brow. Finally, the ship's engines failed, and it crash-landed on the crystal plains of Zareth. The impact threw him forward, and he hit the control panel hard. Dazed, he staggered out of the ship and looked around. Strange towers of shining crystal stretched toward the sky, and the air shimmered with energy he had never felt before. For a moment, fear gripped him. He was alone, far from home, on a planet where every step could mean death. It did not take long for the planet's guards to appear. Tall, armored beings moved with precision and grace, their eyes glowing faintly. They circled Jared, weapons ready, analyzing him with sharp intelligence. Jared raised his hand slowly. "I come in peace," he said. "I am human. I mean no harm." The guards did not relax, but they did not attack. Soon a ripple of energy passed through the air and Queen Vayara appeared. She floated slightly above the ground, her silver robes flowing like liquid light. Her presence was overwhelming, and the temperature seemed to drop around her. Jared's heart pounded, but he forced himself to meet her gaze. "Who dares to step on Zareth uninvited?" Her voice thundered. It was sharp and cold, like ice cracking on a frozen lake. I am Jared," he said, a human from far away. "My ship crashed. I did not choose to come here, please. I mean no harm." Vayara studied him, tilting her head slightly. Humans were weak. She had read about them in the galaxy's records, fragile, emotional, short-lived. And yet this human did not tremble. He did not beg or cry. There was a strange steadiness in his eyes. "Curious," she whispered. The guards moved aside slightly. "You will be allowed to live in for now, but you will remain under strict observation. One wrong move and your life will end." Jared nodded, relief and anxiety warring inside him. He knew survival would be a challenge, but he also sensed something unusual. Queen Vayara's interest in him was not entirely hostile, it was curiosity. And in the galaxy, curiosity could be as dangerous as hate. As days passed, Jared began to explore the palace under guard supervision. He marveled at Zarithian technology, the flowing crystal structures and the strange energy that powered everything. He noticed the quiet corners where shadows moved like living things, and he realized the planet itself seemed alive in some way. Then he met Lyra, the queen's daughter. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like silver, her hair floated as if underwater, and her eyes reflected the green sun. She stared at him curiously, tilting her head, not with fear but with wonder. Jared smiled gently. "Hello," he said. "I'm not here to hurt anyone." Lyra's small voice rang out. "Why are you not afraid?" Jared knelt slightly to meet her gaze. "Because fear cannot protect you. Only courage and care can." The girl's eyes widened. She had never heard words like these from anyone in the palace. The queen watched silently from above, her expression unreadable. Jared had entered a world of power, rules and danger, but little did he know. He was about to enter something even more extraordinary. He was about to touch the heart of a royal child in a way no Zarithian had ever done. And in that moment, far from Earth, Jared realized something remarkable. Sometimes, humans were underestimated, but they carried within them a courage and warmth that even the strongest alien queen could not ignore. Days passed, and Jared began to settle into the strange rhythm of Zareth. The palace was enormous, more magnificent than anything he had ever imagined. Crystalline towers reflected the pale green sunlight, casting rainbows across the floors. But no matter how beautiful the palace was, Jared felt out of place. He was human, a fragile, soft creature among beings of strength, power, and strange elegance. It was during these days that he noticed Lyra more clearly. The queen's daughter was everywhere, watching, observing, asking questions that even the palace tutors could not answer. She moved with grace, but her eyes were curious, sharp, and unyielding. She seemed to understand far more than her age suggested. The first real interaction happened in the Crystal Gardens. Lyra approached Jared quietly, her small feet barely making a sound on the polished ground. "You fix things differently than my teachers," she said, her voice soft but serious. "Why?" Jared smiled, kneeling to her height. "Because I have to work with what I have. I can't rely on power, only on thinking and patience." Lyra's eyes widened. "Thinking. Patience." She repeated the words slowly as if tasting them. "No one here teaches like that." From that day, Lyra began to follow him. She asked him about Earth, about humans, about oceans that stretched endlessly and skies so blue it hurt to look at them. She wanted to know about music, about laughter, about small joys that the palace had never taught her. At first, Jared thought she was just curious. But slowly he realized she was lonely. Royal life on Zareth was strict, and even though Lyra had everything she could want, she had no real friends. No one spoke to her with honesty or warmth, and that loneliness made her eyes sad sometimes, even as they shone with curiosity. Jared began to teach her small things, how to mix colors in paint, how to laugh at silly mistakes, and even simple human games that required no strength, only attention and fun. Lyra laughed for the first time genuinely, and her laughter echoed across the crystal halls, catching the queen's attention. Vayara watched silently, her eyes narrowing slightly. At first she felt irritation. How dare a human fragile and small have such influence over her daughter? But as days went by, the queen noticed something she could not ignore. Lyra was happier, brighter, more confident. The lessons the human taught were not of power, but of courage, kindness, and thoughtfulness. One evening, Jared and Lyra sat by a small water channel that ran through the gardens. The liquid shimmered with green light and tiny creatures swam in it, glowing softly. Lyra leaned against him. "Do humans really laugh at everything?" she asked. Jared chuckled softly. "Not everything, but we find joy where we can. Even in small things." Lyra's eyes sparkled. "I like that. I want to be like that too." Jared placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You already are. You just need to believe in it." The bond between them grew stronger with every day. Lyra trusted him completely, and Jared in turn felt a protective instinct he had never known existed. He realized he was not just teaching her. He was shaping her, guiding her heart in ways no Zarithian could. Queen Vayara could no longer ignore the strange changes. Her daughter, once distant and cautious, now sought out the human's presence. She laughed freely, asked endless questions, and even began challenging her mother's rules in small, thoughtful ways. For the first time, Vayara felt unease mixed with wonder. This human, weak, small, and fragile by all measures, was shaping the future of her child, perhaps even of the entire Zarithian world. Jared, unaware of the queen's conflicted feelings, continued his gentle teaching. He knew he was far from home, but in these crystal gardens he had found purpose. He was not just surviving, he was making a difference. And in the heart of the alien princess, a seed was planted, a seed of hope, curiosity, and trust. A human had entered her life, and already nothing would ever be the same again. Life on Zareth seemed peaceful, almost magical, but peace in the galaxy was always fragile. Rumors began to reach the queen. Zaltrax, a rival planet known for conquest and cruelty, was moving forces towards Zareth. Their warships were fast and their strategy ruthless. No one in the palace had faced them before, and no one knew if Zareth could survive a direct attack. Queen Vayara, who had ruled with absolute strength for centuries, gathered her generals. "Our enemy approaches," she said, her voice steady but colder than ice. "We will defend this world. We will protect our people, and we will protect Lyra." Jared watched from a distance as the council debated. He knew he had little authority here. Humans were fragile, weak, they relied on cleverness, not power. But he also knew he could help. He had studied strategy, navigation, and technology in ways the Zarithians had not. And if the enemy was clever, maybe a human mind could see what the strongest warriors could not. He approached the queen cautiously. "Your Majesty, I may be able to help," he said. "I've studied tactics humans use in wars. Even with small forces, we can outthink an enemy. I just need a chance to show you." Vayara studied him, her eyes sharp and calculating. "And why should I trust a human? You are fragile, inexperienced. One mistake could doom us all." "I know," Jared admitted, But sometimes the smallest being sees what the strongest cannot. Give me a chance. If I fail, I will take the blame. Vieira remained silent for a long moment, then finally nodded. Very well. You will help. But be warned, your life is in my hands. Meanwhile, Lyra had been watching, her tiny hands clenched in worry. Jared, are you really going to help? She asked softly, her voice trembling. Jared crouched to her level. Yes, Lyra. I will do everything I can to protect you, your mother, and this planet. You must trust me. Lyra's eyes glistened with tears, but she nodded. I trust you. The next day, the enemy arrived. The sky above Zareth darkened with Zoltrak's warships, their sharp hulls cutting across the green sun like blades. Explosions lit the horizon as the battle began. Zareth's soldiers fought bravely, but the Zoltrak's forces were cunning and fast. Jared moved among the ships, giving instructions no Zarithian had thought of. If you split into smaller groups and use the crystal towers as cover, you can surround them. He shouted, pointing at the holographic map. The generals looked at him skeptically, but they followed his advice. The tide of battle began to shift, but not without cost. Ships fell, soldiers were injured, and the palace trembled under distant attacks. Lyra clung to a guard, her eyes wide with fear as explosions lit the sky. Jared noticed her immediately and rushed to her side. I will protect you, he promised, shielding her with his body as a nearby blast shook the ground. Queen Vieira, watching from her command tower, felt something stir inside her. A mixture of fear, awe, and a strange warmth she could not name. This human, so small, so fragile, was showing courage she had not seen in centuries. He was not just fighting with weapons. He was fighting with his mind and his heart. By the end of the first day, Zareth had survived the initial attack. Jared was exhausted, bruised, but still determined. Lyra ran into his arms, tears streaming. You saved us, she whispered. Jared hugged her tightly. We saved each other, he corrected gently. And we must be ready. This is only the beginning. Vieira's face remained unreadable, but inside she knew the unexpected truth. This human, this weak and fragile being by all measures, had already changed the outcome of the battle. And perhaps in ways she could not yet understand. He would change more than just this war. He would change her child, and maybe even her entire world. The galaxy was about to witness something remarkable. A human standing strong among the stars, proving that courage, heart, and determination could outshine even the greatest power. The battle over Zareth raged on, filling the sky with fire and smoke. Explosions shook the crystal towers, sending shards glittering across the ground. Zoltrak's forces were relentless, their warships moving faster than Zareth's defenses could anticipate. Soldiers fought bravely, but even the strongest Zarithian warriors were being pushed to the edge. Jared, despite being human and untrained in alien combat, refused to stay behind. He moved through the chaos, studying the enemy's patterns and predicting their next moves. With careful calculations, he guided Zarithian ships into ambushes, helping them strike at the Zoltrak's fleet with precision. Every decision he made was risky, but it worked. Slowly, the tide of battle began to shift. In the palace, Lyra watched from the balcony, gripping the rail tightly. Her small body trembled with fear, but her eyes shone with hope. Jared, be careful, she whispered, praying silently for his safety. Jared's heart ached when he heard her voice in his mind, though he could not stop. I will not let them hurt you, he thought, his resolve hardening. He reminded himself that humans may be fragile, but determination and courage could change fate. Suddenly, a Zoltrak's commander appeared above the palace, their weapon aimed directly at the royal family. A massive blast was about to strike, and panic spread among the Zarithians. Jared acted without hesitation. Using a combination of calculations and instinct, he directed a small squadron of Zarithian ships to intercept the attack. Then, in a daring and dangerous move, Jared leaped onto a hovering platform, heading straight for the weapon. Sparks flew and the heat was unbearable, but he pushed forward, disabling the weapon with precise timing. The blast that could have destroyed the palace fizzled harmlessly into the sky. Lyra gasped, tears streaming down her cheeks. She ran toward him as he stumbled back, injured but alive. You saved us, you saved us all, she cried, holding his hand tightly. Queen Vieira arrived, her silver robes shimmering as she floated beside them. Her eyes, usually so cold and unreadable, were wide with disbelief. How did a human do this? She whispered, her voice barely audible over the fading battle. Jared smiled faintly. blood on his cheek, but determination still shining in his eyes. Humans, we fight with our hearts, he said softly. Not just strength. Not just power. We fight for those we care about. Vayara looked at him, truly looked, for the first time without prejudice. She had ruled countless worlds, trained countless soldiers, and faced endless battles. And yet she had never seen courage like this, not in strength, not in power, but in a being so fragile, so human, risking everything for others. Lyra held Jared's hand tightly, her small fingers wrapping around his. "Mother human?" she said quietly, almost in awe, though she didn't fully understand the words yet. Her innocent trust, her belief in him, struck Vayara harder than any weapon ever could. The Zoltrak's forces began to retreat, disoriented and defeated by the unexpected tactics of a human among the Zerithian ranks. Jared collapsed to the ground, exhausted and wounded, but he had done it. He had changed the outcome of the battle, not by being the strongest, but by being clever, brave, and selfless. In the silence that followed, the palace was filled with awe and gratitude. Soldiers and citizens alike whispered about the human who had saved them. Vayara's pride and fear battled inside her. She had underestimated humans, believing them weak and insignificant. Now she saw the truth. Humans could be the most dangerous force in the universe, not because of their power, but because of their heart. Lyra leaned against Jared, whispering, "I knew you would save us." Jared smiled, holding her close. "We saved each other," he corrected softly, his voice full of warmth and quiet pride. Queen Vayara's eyes softened, and for the first time she allowed herself to feel humility. She realized that the human she had brought into her palace, the fragile being she had once thought weak, had changed everything, not just the battle but the future of her daughter, and perhaps the future of Zareth itself. In that moment, Jared's courage became a legend, proof that even the smallest beings could perform miracles. The universe had just witnessed the beginning of something extraordinary, the heart of humanity shining brighter than the strongest alien power. The battle was over, but the echoes of it lingered in the crystal halls of the palace. Smoke drifted from the outskirts of the city, and the wounded were being tended by healers whose hands moved with precision and care. Life was slowly returning to normal, yet Jared could not relax. His body ached from injuries, and every movement reminded him of the danger he had faced. But his mind was focused on one thing: Lyra. Lyra had been quiet all morning, her small hands twisting the edge of her silver tunic. She watched Jared with wide, curious eyes, as if she wanted to understand the man who had risked everything for her. Jared approached her carefully, sitting down beside her on a crystal bench that reflected the morning light. "Lyra," he said softly, "are you all right?" She nodded, but her gaze did not leave his face. I'm happy you are here. I thought I might lose you." Her voice trembled slightly, and Jared felt a pang in his heart. Humans were not supposed to bond like this, he thought, but he could not deny the warmth spreading through him. "You won't lose me," he said gently. "I promised you, remember? I will protect you, always." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "You are not like anyone else, Jared. You see me. You care for me. You teach me things no one else has." Her voice wavered, but she spoke with honesty. "I wish you could stay forever." Jared looked at her, his own heart tightening. He wanted to stay too, but he knew the distance of space, the world he had come from, was calling him. "Lyra," he began, unsure how to express the feelings swelling in his chest. "I wish I could stay. But humans, we have places we must be, lives we must protect. I cannot stay here forever." Lyra's small hands gripped his. "Then be my mother, human. Teach me everything always. Stay in my heart, even if your body cannot stay here." Jared was taken aback. He had expected gratitude, maybe admiration, but not this trust, this love, this innocence asking for a bond that went beyond worlds. He swallowed hard, emotion choking his words. "Lyra, I will do my best. I promise." Queen Vayara had been watching from a distance, unseen by both of them. She froze in her place, her hand pressed to her mouth. Her child, her daughter, the royal heir of Zareth, had just called a human mother. The word struck her harder than any weapon ever could. For centuries, Vayara had ruled with logic, strategy, and strength. Love, she had believed, was a weakness. And yet, here was her child, showing a kind of understanding and wisdom that rivaled even the most seasoned Zerithian advisors. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a mixture of shock, fear, and awe. Jared and Lyra sat together, the small hands intertwined, sharing a quiet connection that no words could fully explain. Lyra leaned her head on Jared's shoulder, feeling safe, loved, and understood for the first time in her young life. Jared felt the weight of responsibility and pride at the same time. He had entered this world as a stranger, a weak human in a palace of power, and now he had earned a place in the heart of a princess. Vera stepped back, her eyes glistening. She had underestimated humans. She had believed they were fragile, short-lived, and insignificant. And yet this one human had not only saved her planet, but had earned her child's trust and love. A human had shown her that strength was not only in power or weapons, but in courage, patience, and a heart willing to care. Lyra looked up at Jared, her eyes shining with innocence and wonder. "Mother Human," she whispered again, softly but firmly. The title held weight, hope, and promise, and it echoed in the quiet hall like a soft anthem of something new and extraordinary. Jared's eyes met Vera's for the first time. There was no arrogance, no fear, only honesty. "I am honored," he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of truth. "I will do my best for Lyra, for this planet, for everyone who needs someone to stand with them." Vera's chest tightened. She could not speak. She could only watch, stunned, as the bond between human and princess blossomed, a bond that would change everything, not only for her child but for the entire world of Zareth. In that moment, the queen realized the smallest beings could hold the greatest power, and the universe might be full of surprises that even she could not predict. The days after the battle were calm, yet charged with an unspoken tension. Life on Zareth slowly returned to routine, but for Queen Veyara, nothing was the same. Her daughter Lyra was different. She laughed more freely, asked more questions, and moved with a brightness that had never been there before. All because of one human, Jared. Veyara had watched silently as Jared tended to Lyra, teaching her, guiding her, and protecting her. At first she had felt irritation. How dare a human, fragile and inexperienced, have such influence over her child? But as time passed, she began to notice the subtle changes. Lyra's eyes sparkled with joy. Her mind was sharper and her heart seemed fuller. Jared had given her something that no royal tutor, no weapon and no throne could ever give: love, care, and trust. One quiet afternoon, Veyara found herself standing in the crystal gardens, watching them from a distance. Lyra laughed as Jared showed her a simple game from Earth. She ran toward him, hands outstretched, and he caught her in a gentle embrace. Her laughter was pure and unrestrained, and for a moment Veyara felt a strange tug in her chest, envy mixed with awe. Lyra ran to Jared again, clutching his hand. "Mother Human," she said softly, her eyes shining. "Will you stay with me?" Veyara froze. The words echoed through the garden, ringing louder than any battle cry she had ever heard. Her child had chosen a human as a mother in her heart. It was a concept she had never considered, and yet it made sense. Jared had shown strength in ways she had never expected, courage that no Zarithian warrior had displayed, and a heart bigger than any ruler's ambition. Veyara stepped closer, her presence making the ground hum slightly. Jared looked up, still holding Lyra, and gave her a faint, respectful nod. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "I only wish to help Lyra and protect her." The queen studied him carefully. For centuries, she had believed that power alone defined value, and yet here was a human, small, fragile, and seemingly ordinary, who had saved her planet, taught her child, and earned trust that even she could not command. Her chest tightened with a mix of surprise and humility. "I underestimated you," she admitted, her voice soft. "I thought humans were weak, incapable of true strength. But I see now, strength is not only in power. Strength is courage, wisdom, and heart. You have all three." Jared lowered his head slightly, touched by her words. "Thank you, Your Majesty. That means more than I can say." Lyra tugged at his hand. "See, Mother Human? Even the Queen agrees." Her laughter was gentle, innocent, and full of joy. Jared smiled and hugged her close, feeling the warmth of her trust and love. Veyara watched them for a long moment. She realized something important. A human had taught her daughter not only knowledge but also the essence of empathy, courage, and compassion. For the first time in her long life, the queen understood that love and trust could be more powerful than any weapon or decree. Later, in the quiet of the palace, Veyara approached Jared alone. I owe you an apology, she said, her voice sincere. I doubted you. I questioned your worth, but you have proven that humans can inspire, protect, and teach in ways even I cannot. Jared bowed his head respectfully. I only wish to do right by Lyra, Your Majesty. Everything else is a gift from her trust. The Queen nodded slowly, her eyes softening. You may remain here if you wish. Not as a visitor, but as a part of this palace and as a part of Lyra's life. Jared's eyes widened slightly. I would be honored, Your Majesty. Truly. Lyra, watching from a doorway, let out a small cheer. Mother Human, did you hear that? You can stay. Vayara could not help but smile faintly. A rare sight. The bond between Lyra and Jared was no longer just a secret connection. It was a recognized part of her child's life, and by extension a part of the palace. That evening, as the green sun set over Zareth, Jared sat with Lyra on the crystal balcony. She rested her head on his shoulder, smiling. Mother Human, I am glad you are here. Jared stroked her hair gently. And I am glad to be here, Lyra, more than you can ever imagine. Queen Vayara watched from behind a crystal pillar, her heart full. She understood now that sometimes the smallest, most unexpected beings could teach the greatest lessons. And in her child's happiness she saw a future brighter than any power she had ever held. The war was over, the skies of Zareth now clear and calm. The crystal towers reflected the soft light of the green sun, and the palace hummed with quiet life. Soldiers repaired walls, citizens cleaned the streets, and the air, once tense with fear, now carried a fragile hope. Jared had healed from his injuries, though his body still bore the marks of battle. But his heart was light, warmed by something far greater than his physical recovery. Lyra. The bond between human and princess had grown stronger every day, a connection built on trust, courage, and genuine care. Lyra ran to him as he walked through the crystal gardens, her silver hair catching the sunlight. Mother Human, she cried, throwing her arms around him. You are here. You stayed. Jared smiled, lifting her gently into his arms. I promised I would protect you, he said softly, and I meant every word. The Queen Vayara watched them from a distance. She had changed. The pride and rigidity that had defined her rule for centuries were softened by understanding and humility. She had seen her daughter's happiness, seen Jared's courage and love, and realized that the universe often placed strength where one least expected it. Humans, she had learned, were not weak, they were remarkable. They fought not only with their minds and hands, but with their hearts. That evening, Vayara called Jared to the palace council chamber. She did not command him, nor did she question him. Instead, she spoke with sincerity and warmth. Jared, she began, you have proven more than courage. You have proven the value of heart, wisdom, and care. You have saved my child, my people, and my world. From this day forward, you are no longer just a visitor. You are part of Zareth, and part of my family. Jared bowed his head respectfully, overwhelmed by the honor. Thank you, Your Majesty. I only wanted to do what was right, and to be here for Lyra. Vayara's eyes softened, and for the first time she allowed a small smile. And that is enough. Sometimes the smallest beings carry the greatest power. You human have shown me that truth. Lyra ran forward, her tiny hands grasping Jared's. See, Mother Human? Even the Queen says you belong. She giggled, spinning in excitement. Jared laughed, lifting her up, feeling the joy of belonging for the first time outside his own world. In the following weeks, life on Zareth took on a new rhythm. Jared taught Lyra more about Earth, laughter, and kindness. He explored the palace, learned Zarethian customs, and helped guide the rebuilding efforts. His presence inspired others too. Humans were no longer just fragile creatures from distant stars. They were beings capable of courage, wisdom, and love that transcended worlds. Queen Vayara watched her daughter flourish under Jared's guidance. Lyra's confidence grew, her heart was strong, and her mind sharp. Vayara realized that letting a human into their lives had not been a weakness but a gift that transformed them all. One quiet night, the three of them stood on a balcony overlooking the crystal plains. Lyra leaned on Jared, and Vayara stood nearby, her hand on her daughter's shoulder. The stars above glimmered like a promise. Lyra whispered, Mother Human, will you stay forever? Jared looked at her, then at Vayara, and finally at the glowing horizon. He smiled warmly. Yes, my star child. I will stay. Forever. Vayara nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. She understood now what true strength meant. Not power, not conquest, but heart, courage, and the love that could cross the boundaries of species, worlds, and stars. In that moment, Zareth was no longer just a planet of crystal and power. It was a place of family, trust, and the undeniable proof of humanity's worth. A human had not only survived in an alien world, but had changed it, teaching everyone, including a queen, that the heart could achieve what might seem impossible. And so, under the calm green sun and the shimmering stars, the human, the princess, and the queen looked toward a future filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. Humanity had proven itself once again, not with weapons or strength, but with courage, compassion, and heart. The universe had witnessed something extraordinary. The smallest beings could shine the brightest, and the human heart was more powerful than any star.